Try to be useful. That's the only thing that might keep you alive.
Those were the last words her father said to her. Not goodbye, not her name, just advice, cold, practical, delivered without eye contact, while two warriors fastened iron chains around her wrists and walked her toward the border of the only territory she'd ever known. Bryn counted her steps. A child's game, but it gave her mind somewhere to be that wasn't here. This path lined with wolves she'd grown up with, hunted beside, bled for. Wolves who stood at the edges of the trail and watched her pass like a funeral procession. Mara, who she'd taught to shoot 3 summers ago, turned her face to the trees. Old Callum, who used to sneak her honeycomb from his stores, studied his boots. A girl, barely 12, reached toward Bryn as she passed, on her small hand stretching through the crowd. An older woman grabbed the girl's arm and pulled her back, sharp, fast, the way you pull someone from a fire. At the border, Thane's warriors waited, 12 of them, armored in black leather and steel, each bearing the insignia she'd only seen in books, a crescent moon over crossed swords, the mark of the Blackmore pack, the mark of the conqueror. They looked at her the way soldiers look at cargo. Her father spoke to the lead warrior. She caught fragments, the language of transaction between men who understood that some debts were paid in flesh. As agreed, the blood debt is settled. She's healthy, no defects. No defects, like a horse at auction. Bryn had made herself a promise the night her father told her what he'd done. She would not cry in front of these people. She would not beg. She would not give them the memory of her breaking. The chains clinked with every step. The border crossed behind her. Her father's territory disappeared behind the trees. She didn't look back. Not once. One warrior muttered to another as the march began. Aldrich sent this as tribute. The beast of Blackmore is going to eat her alive. A pause, then the other, quieter. That might be the point. Thane's territory was nothing like hers. A fortress carved from black stone, perched on a cliff above a river gorge so deep the water at the bottom looked like a dark ribbon. Every surface was functional, brutal, stripped of ornament. This place wasn't built to be lived in. It was built to survive. The stories hit her as they passed through the iron gates. The beast of Blackmore, the alpha who swallowed 3 kingdoms. The wolf who executed surrendering alphas on their knees in their own throne rooms. Wolves inside the fortress stopped and stared, not with curiosity, with pity. And that terrified Bryn more than hostility, because pity meant they knew what was coming. An old woman approached, a healer based on the herb pouch at her hip. She looked at Bryn's chains with bone-deep weariness. I'm Marin. I tend to the wounded here. If you need anything... I don't need anything from anyone in this place. Too sharp, too fast. Something closed behind the healer's eyes, not hurt, understanding, which was worse. Marin withdrew. The one person who might have helped her, pushed away because Bryn's pride was a wall she'd built so high she'd rather die behind it than admit she needed a door. They brought her to the great hall, massive, torchlit. At the far end, a plain wooden chair on a raised platform. Every wolf faced it. The silence that fell when they brought Bryn forward wasn't the silence of an audience. It was the silence of prey, sensing a predator that hadn't arrived yet. He entered from a side door. No announcement, just a shift in the air, every body adjusting, tightening, orienting toward him. The warrior beside Bryn took a half-step back. Unconscious, automatic. The torches seemed to dim. Bryn's wolf, pressed flat inside her since the chains, did something unexpected. She didn't cower. She snarled. Stupid, Bryn thought. Suicidal, she corrected. She noticed his hands first, scarred across every knuckle, rough, large, the hands of someone who had killed with them and didn't bother hiding it. He sat, looked at her, took his time. This is Aldrich's offering? Flat, unimpressed, talking to his warriors, not to her. Yes, my alpha, his eldest daughter. She's small. Bryn's jaw locked. Can she fight? Unknown. Can she work? She was a hunter, competent with a bow. Remove the chains. The warrior hesitated. Alpha, blood debt protocol requires... I said remove them. Her wrists were raw. She rubbed them, feeling blood return like fire. He crossed the hall toward her, each step deliberate. Wolves parted without being told. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough to count his scars, close enough that her wolf was simultaneously trying to attack and submit, producing a sensation she absolutely refused to examine. You're mine now. Not cruelly, factually. Your father's debt is paid in your service. You will work. You will obey. You will not attempt to leave. Every survival instinct told her to nod. No, she said. The hall stopped breathing. I'll work because I choose to survive, but I don't belong to you. I don't belong to anyone. You can chain me, cage me, or kill me, but I will not stand here and agree that I'm yours like a sword or a horse. She lifted her chin. So do what you're going to do, but don't expect me to say thank you. His expression didn't change. Not anger, not amusement, something she couldn't read. Put her in the East Wing and get her something to eat. She looks half-starved. He turned, walked away. The beta walked her to the East Wing, paused at a heavy door. That's his chamber. Yours is across the hall. He looked at her. In 17 years, I've never seen him remove a debt slave's chains on the first day. I've also never seen anyone say no to him and walk away breathing. He opened her door. Either you're the bravest wolf I've ever met, or the most foolish. In this fortress, those are often the same thing. She couldn't sleep. Past midnight, a commotion rose from the courtyard below. Torchlight, commands. She went to the window. Thane was in the yard. Warriors had dragged in a captured scout, a rival wolf caught crossing the border, on his knees, already bleeding. The interrogation was brutal, not sadistic, efficient, systematic. Thane asked questions in that flat voice, and when answers didn't come fast enough, he made the cost of silence clear. Bryn watched with a stone in her stomach. This was who he was, not a misunderstood prince, a man who did violent things because they worked. The scout was taken away, the yard cleared. The Thane stood alone. He looked at his hands, the scarred, blood-mapped hands. Then he walked inside, and through the stone walls Bryn heard it, hitting, fist against stone, once, twice, again, rhythmic, violent, not fighting someone and punishing himself. Then silence, then so quiet she almost missed it. A long, shaking exhale, the kind that follows pain chosen on purpose. She stared at the wall and wondered what kind of monster punishes himself in the dark for being a monster. She was put to work, not degrading labor, functional. Kitchens first, then hunting parties when word spread that Aldrich's daughter could shoot. On the 4th day, they took her hunting. The party kept its distance. She was a blood debt wolf, socially untouchable. A massive stag broke through the tree line. The other hunters scrambled. Too slow, too loud. Bryn released. Clean kill. The hunting party stared. Lucky shot, one muttered. Do you want me to miss next time? I can arrange that. That evening, they saved her a seat by the fire. She didn't take it, but she saw it. That night, a small clay pot of salve on her bed. No note. She opened it. Healing herbs. Not the same kind Marin offered, something finer, something already in someone's quarters. She looked at the wall between their rooms. Her wrists ached. She used the salve. She didn't say thank you. Thane returned from a border patrol with a gash across his ribs, deep, bleeding through his shirt. Marin was overwhelmed with wounded. The beta brought Bryn. You're a hunter. You've stitched wounds in the field. On deer, Bryn said flatly. Oh, he's about the same size. They put her in the healer's alcove with a needle, gut thread, and the most dangerous wolf alive sitting on a bench bleeding through his shirt. Take it off, she said, gesturing at the shirt. All business. He pulled it over his head and Bryn's wolf did something she would never forgive her for. She surged. Not with aggression. Something worse. Heat pooling low in her belly. A sound in her chest closer to a purr than a growl. an absolutely devastating awareness of every inch of skin in front of her, scars everywhere, not neat, earned, layered across his torso like a history written in violence, a long one curved from his shoulder to his ribs, smaller ones clustered like constellations. She'd seen wounded wolves before. She'd stitched skin without flinching. She'd never fought the urge to trace a scar with her fingertip. "Are you going to stitch it or study it?" His voice, low, dry, snapped her back. "I'm assessing." She knelt, cleaned the gash, threaded the needle. "This will hurt. I've had worse. I know. I can see the evidence." She didn't look at his face. Couldn't. Because if she looked at his face while she was this close to his body, she was going to do something catastrophically stupid. She stitched, steady hands, the needle-piercing skin, thread pulling through. She focused on the mechanics, on anything except the heat radiating off him and the way his breathing changed when her knuckles brushed unbroken skin. "You're good at this," he said quietly. "I'm good at a lot of things you haven't bothered to find out about." "That's fair." She tied off a stitch. Her fingers rested against his ribs, just for a second. She could feel his heartbeat through the muscle, steady, strong, faster than it should have been for a man sitting still. She looked up. He was watching her face, not her hands, her face, unguarded, almost soft, their eyes held, her hand on his ribs, his heartbeat under her fingers, the alcove small and warm and the rest of the fortress on the other side of the world. "Your heart's beating fast," she said. The words escaped before her brain could stop them. "I'm aware." "Is it the wound?" "No." One word. The most honest thing he'd said to her. She pulled away, finished the last stitch, stood too quickly, her head rushed, her hand landing beside his thigh on the bench, which was a terrible place for it. "Try not to die," she said. "I'm running out of thread." Something shifted at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile. The ghost of where a smile used to live. She left with her hands shaking and the phantom sensation of his heartbeat against her fingertips. She went to her room, pressed her back against the closed door, breathed until her wolf stopped doing whatever obscene thing it was doing in her chest. His heart had been beating fast, and it wasn't because of the wound. The courtyard happened 3 days later. Late afternoon, Bryn repairing arrows on a bench, children spilling out across the yard, laughing, tumbling, half-shifting between giggles. One child tripped and fell hard, scraped both knees. The cry was more shock than pain, but loud, and no adult appeared. Bryn knelt beside him. "It's shallow. You'll live. Scars are just stories your skin tells. It hurts. I know. Being brave doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It means you get up anyway." She helped him stand, dusted his knees. He ran after the others, already laughing. She turned. Thane, 10 feet away, utterly still. But his expression, something cracked through the surface. Something that hadn't been felt in a long time and hurt coming back, the way blood hurts returning to a limb that's been numb. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. He turned and walked away. Faster than necessary, like retreating from something he didn't have a weapon for. The next morning he handed her a bow at the fortress gate. Not the standard hunting bow, something finer. Old leather grip worn smooth by years of use. "This was mine," he said, and walked away before she could respond. It was still warm from his hands. She couldn't sleep. The courtyard kept replaying, the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd retreated. The fortress walls at night were savage and beautiful, the gorge below endless, the river a silver thread, and the moon fat and close enough to touch. He was already there, sitting on the wall's edge with his legs over a drop that would kill any wolf who fell, completely unconcerned. She should have turned around. Instead, she sat beside him, close enough that her knee almost touched his. Almost. "Can't sleep," she said. "Neither can I." "How long?" "How long what?" "How long since you slept, really slept?" "What year is it?" She almost laughed. It surprised her. The impulse. "Tell me about your mother," he said. The question landed strangely. careful, like he'd been carrying it for days. She died when I was 7. I don't remember much. Her voice, her smell, wild sage and something sweet I've never identified. She pulled her knees up. She was different. My father hated that. Hated how the pack looked at her, like she was something he couldn't own. The word landed between them. Own. She heard it. He heard it. Is that why he sold you? He sold me because I'm inconvenient. She paused. Why are you asking? Because I want to know. 4 words, no angle, no transaction. A man on a wall at midnight asking about her mother because he wanted to know. Her wolf stirred. Not defensive, something warmer, leaning toward a fire after days in the cold. Your turn, she said. Why do you hit the walls at night? The silence had its own weather. You hear that? Every night. The stone isn't as thick as you think. He looked at his hands, the scarred knuckles she could draw from memory. I hit the walls because some nights the only thing that keeps me from becoming the thing they say I am is pain that belongs to me instead of someone else. The words hung between them. Naked. Exposed. That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me, she whispered. I know. He turned. Moonlight caught his face, and she saw exhaustion, grief, and something she hadn't let herself name. Desperate, terrified want. The kind from a person who hasn't wanted anything for themselves in so long they've forgotten how. Does it scare you? He asked. What I am? You've been asking me that since the first day. Every time you leave salve instead of handing it to me. Every time you watch from a distance instead of coming closer. Every time you give me your things instead of giving me... She stopped. Instead of giving you what? Words, she said. But that wasn't what she'd been about to say. They both knew it. The space between them had shrunk. She didn't remember moving. Their knees were touching. His hand rested on the stone between them, palm up. Open, not reaching, just open. She took it. Not romantically. She picked it up and held it like a map she was learning to read, turned it over, traced a scar across his knuckle with her thumb. His breath caught, sharp, involuntary, the sound a man makes when something touches a part of him he's forgotten can feel. These hands have done terrible things, she said. Yes, they removed my chains. Yes, they held a bow out to me like it was something precious. His fingers curled slightly, not closing around hers, responding, an involuntary reflex. She released him, stood. Good night, beast. Good night, Bryn. The first time he'd said her name since the Great Hall. It sounded different now, heavier, like it had grown roots in his mouth and leaving it cost him something. She walked back, didn't hurry, every step controlled because if she moved faster, she'd turn around. She closed her door. Her hand, the one that held his, was still warm. She could still feel his pulse. The beast of Blackmore had a heartbeat that raced when she touched him and a voice that said her name like the last prayer he'd ever learned. She was in so much trouble. She was in the training yard at dawn because she couldn't be in her room anymore. His bow helped, the weight, the singing string, the thud of arrows in their marks. She'd been shooting for an hour when the air changed. She knew he was there before she turned. Your elbow drops on the release, he said. It costs you accuracy at distance. My last 10 arrows are center ring. At 30 paces. At 60, the drift would cost the kill. She lowered the bow. Then show me. Something crossed his face. Personal calculation. He walked to her, stood behind her. Close. Draw. She raised the bow. His hand came up, hovering, and adjusted her elbow, 2 inches higher. His fingers close enough to feel heat without contact. Your stance is too narrow. His boot nudged hers, the first deliberate contact between them, through leather. And it jolted through her body with force completely disproportionate to a nudge. Draw again, she drew. Now hold. His hand settled on her waist, light, adjusting her rotation, his palm flat against the curve between her ribs and hip, and the warmth burned through her clothes like a brand. Your center is off. Shift forward. She shifted, her back pressed against his chest. They both stopped breathing, his hand on her waist, her spine against his chest, the bow drawn, the arrow ready, and neither of them thinking about archery. She could feel his heartbeat against her shoulder blade, fast, faster than standing still had any right to produce. "Release," he said. The word came out rough, stripped. She released. The arrow hit dead center at 60 paces. She didn't lower the bow. He didn't step back. She turned her head. His face was right there. The distance between their mouths was nothing. A breath. Less. "This is a terrible idea," she whispered. "Yes." He didn't move. "You bought me." "I know. I'm not yours." "I know that too." His eyes dropped to her mouth. She watched them drop, watched him look at her lips with naked, agonized want, a man staring at water in a desert. The distance closed, millimeter by millimeter. She could feel the warmth of his mouth. A horn blew, loud, patrol returning through the main gate. They separated, fast, 3 steps between them, cold rushing in. "Your form is better," he said, almost normal, a fracture running through it. "Thank you for the lesson." Also fractured. He left. She stood with his bow in her shaking hands and the ghost of his warmth against her spine and the devastating knowledge that she would have kissed the man who owned her. And she would have meant it. The argument came that evening, the great hall emptying after dinner. "You stood behind me today," she said, "in the training yard. You put your hand on me. I was correcting your form. You were doing more than that, and we both know it." Silence. "I can't want you," she said. The words ripped out like something alive. "Do you understand? I can't. You bought me. Every feeling I have in this place is contaminated by the fact that I'm not free to have it. If I want you, is it because I want you or because you're the only option in my cage?" The words hit him. She watched his expression shift from guarded to wounded. "I don't know how to answer that," he said. "Neither do I, that's the problem." "Stop leaving salve on my bed," she said, her voice cracking. "Stop giving me your bow. Stop looking at me like what?" Just them now, torches guttering. "Like I'm a person, because I can survive being your property, but I can't survive being treated like I matter and then remembering that I don't." He stood, 1 step toward her. She didn't move. "You make this very, very difficult," he whispered. He dropped his hand. Left. She pressed her palm to the wall that night, cold stone, and underneath, warmth, faint, impossible, his palm pressing back, palm to palm through stone, more intimate than any kiss, because a kiss could be taken back. This couldn't. Her forehead dropped against the wall. On the other side, she heard his do the same. Her father's envoy arrived the next day, warriors bearing demands. Aldrich wanted her back, not from love. He'd found a better buyer. Thane received them in the great hall, full court. Every wolf who'd been starting to see Bryn as more than a transaction. "She's not available for renegotiation." One of Aldrich's warriors turned to Bryn. "You don't know what she is, do you? What her bloodline carries. Your debt slave is worth more than this entire fortress." And then Thane said it, in front of everyone. "She is what I paid for, nothing more." 7 words. The hall went quiet. The hunting wolves looked at the floor. Marin closed her eyes. The kitchen staff found things to do with their hands. Every inch of ground Bryn had earned crumbled. She was cargo again, a body on a ledger. She didn't cry, but something behind her ribs cracked. The envoy left. Bryn walked to her room, started packing, through the wall, hitting. Harder than before, faster, desperate, then a crack, not stone, bone. She stood there, bag in hand, told herself it wasn't her problem. She crossed the hall, pushed his door open. He was on the floor. His right hand, the hand that removed her chains, held out a bow, hovered near her face, shattered. Knuckles split, bones shifted wrong, blood on the wall, blood pooling. He looked up. The most naked expression she'd ever seen on a living face. Shame, pain, and something terrifying, like he'd been trying to hurt himself badly enough to feel anything other than what he felt when he looked at her. She knelt, took his broken hand. He flinched, not from pain, from gentleness. "You're an idiot," she said. "Yes." She set the bones. Her fingers around his, manipulating, correcting. He didn't make a sound, but his eyes were on her face the entire time, and the expression in them was not about pain. She wrapped his hand with strips torn from her own shirt. Each wrap brought her fingers closer to his wrist, his palm. She was being clinical. Her body was on fire. When she finished, she held his broken hand in her lap. "You called me property today." "I know. In front of everyone." She lifted his hand, pressed her lips to his broken knuckles. Brief, barely a second. His entire body went rigid. A tremor ran through him, visible, physical. She set his hand down. "Don't do it again." "I won't." She left. Back in her room, she looked at her packed bag, looked at the wall. She unpacked. Marin came that night. Bryn let her in, not from trust, but because her hands were shaking. The healer brought truth. "Your mother was Moonblood, the last carrier of a bloodline so old and powerful that alphas would burn kingdoms to possess it. Your father hid what you are your whole life. When the secret leaked, he panicked, sold you to the most dangerous alpha he could find, knowing someone would come for you and the war would weaken Thane. Your father profits either way. So I'm property to everyone." "Not to everyone. He removed your chains on the first day, gave you his bow, put you across from his own door, and tonight he shattered his hand because calling you property was the worst thing he's done in 17 years of terrible things." A horn split the silence. Deep, the fortress alarm. Bryn ran to the window. In the forest, torches, dozens, moving through the trees. Her father's wolves. They'd brought allies. Act 3, the explosion. Bryn grabbed the bow and ran for the walls. A warrior tried to stop her. "You should be in the safe hold. I'm the reason they're here. Move!" She fought from the walls, arrow after arrow with the precision of 23 years. Below, Thane fought with his left hand, the right broken, useless, and even diminished. He was devastating. His wolves formed around him with loyalty born not from fear, but from the fact that he'd never asked them to fight a battle he wasn't fighting first. Aldrich came through a breach. Not fighting, walking, calculated. He climbed to where Bryn stood, bow in hand. "Hello, father." "Bryn, put that down. I'm taking you home." "You sold me. That stopped being home." "The Eastern Hold is offering 3 territories for you. Your bloodline—" "My bloodline is mine." She drew the bow, last arrow, aimed at the man who gave her life and sold it. "Leave! Don't come back!" Behind Aldrich, Thane appeared, blood on him, breathing hard. His eyes found Bryn, standing tall, bow drawn, the fortress burning behind her. And something in his expression cracked open completely. Aldrich looked between them, calculated, retreated. The attacking wolves scattered, the fortress held, dawn, the courtyard, Bryn on the stone bench, bow across her knees, hands shaking. Thane sat beside her, close, no wall between them. He pulled out a scroll, the blood debt contract. Her name in her father's hand, Bryn, eldest daughter offered in perpetuity. He held the scroll to a torch flame. It burned, curled to ash. "The debt is void. Your father concealed your bloodline. False terms void the contract." He watched the ash drift. "You can go, anywhere. Escort, supplies, protection. You have my word." She stared at him. The beast of Blackmore standing in wreckage, burning the only document that let him keep her. "Why?" He looked at his hands. The broken one wrapped in her shirt, the other scarred and bleeding. "Because you were right. You don't belong to me." He exhaled. "And I can't call you mine when I haven't earned the right." She stood. He braced, preparing for the impact of watching her leave. She didn't go to the gate. She walked into the great hall, the same hall where he'd called her property, the same wolves, morning light, debris, smoke. She stood in the center, the exact spot where she'd arrived in chains. "My name is Bryn," not loud, or every wolf heard it. "I was sold here as property. The debt is voided. I am no one's possession." Silence. "I am staying, not because of debt or law or chains." She looked at Thane, standing at the edge of the room, barely breathing, his broken hand against his chest, his expression utterly undone. "I'm staying because the most feared alpha in this kingdom gave me a bow and took off my chains on the first day and didn't know how to say why. And I'm staying because someone has to teach him." She looked at the room. "If anyone has a problem with a free wolf choosing to be here, take it up with my bow." Marin started laughing, warm, full. One by one, the hall thawed. Bryn walked to Thane, stood in front of him, in the exact spot. "I'm not staying because you freed me," she said. "I'm staying because I choose to. There's a difference." She took his broken hand, held it, not like glass, like something damaged and worth the work of healing. He lifted his other hand, touched her face, not the hovering almost touch, not a correction. He touched her, his thumb tracing her cheekbone, fingers sliding into her hair, palm cupping her jaw with tenderness that should have been impossible from hands that had done what his had done. "You terrify me," he said, "more than any battle, more than 17 years of being the thing they fear." His voice cracked. "You sat on a wall and held my hand, and I haven't been the same since." "Good," she said, and kissed him. Not gently. She kissed him the way a woman who'd been fighting her whole life kisses the first person who made the fighting worth it, with teeth and heat and her fists in his shirt, and 23 years of being unwanted pouring out like a dam breaking. He made a sound against her mouth. Not a word. Something primal, broken, desperate, starving. His arms came around her, the broken hand and the whole one pulling her against him. His mouth moved against hers like he was memorizing her shape, like he'd been thinking about this since the training yard, since the alcove, since the first day she looked him in the eye and said no. She bit his lower lip. He growled, low, involuntary, vibrating through her chest. His hand tightened in her hair. Her back hit the pillar and she didn't care. Nothing mattered except his mouth and his heartbeat hammering against her, and the devastating certainty that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. They broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads together. "If you ever call me property again," she managed, "I'll put an arrow through something you value." His mouth twitched, the closest thing to a real smile she'd ever seen. Noted. Morning. Bryn woke in the east wing, her room. She'd chosen that deliberately. They had time. She opened her door. Across the hall, his was open too. He leaned against the frame, waiting. He held out the bow. She'd left it on the wall during the battle. "You forgot this." "I didn't forget. I came back for it." They looked at each other across the hallway. Two damaged wolves. Like two people who'd fought their way to something that didn't have a name yet but felt like the beginning of one. His knuckles weren't bloody this morning. No hitting, no self-punishment, just his hands open and still. "The wall between our rooms," she said. "You don't need it anymore." "I never did," he said. She walked toward the courtyard. He fell into step beside her. Not behind, not ahead, beside. In the yard, wolves repaired walls and cleared debris. The children were already playing, resilient, loud, alive. The boy with scraped knees waved. She waved back. Marin caught her eye, smiled. Bryn nodded, apology and gratitude in a single motion. She was still not property, still not owned, still not tamed. But she'd chosen to stay. And for the first time in her life, the cage door was open and she didn't want to run. They sold her like property, chained her like an animal, called her worthless, disposable, a settled debt. But the cruelest alpha alive learned something in the wreckage of his fortress, that the wolves worth keeping aren't the ones who kneel. They're the ones who look you in the eye, dare you to be worthy, and choose to stay when every door is open. Want more werewolf romance where love is forged in fire and fought for with everything? Subscribe now for new stories every week, Like this video if you believe love isn't about being saved, it's about choosing to stay. And tell me in the comments, what should I write next? A forbidden bond no law can break? A secret identity that changes everything? Or enemies who can't stop wanting each other?